This conference will now be recorded.
A moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we get started on item number 1 this evening, I wanted to take a moment because we have had a longstanding member of our community who served on our CPPS board before it was the CPPS board, was the cemetery board, who she's still around, but she's just unable to continue serving in that capacity. So she couldn't be here this evening, but wanted to present the certificate of appreciation to Bonnie Lou Sandberg, who has just dedicated years and years of service to our community. And I wanted to take a moment just to appreciate her and her time in serving on the cemetery board and the CPPS board for well over a decade. In fact, her time has gone back further than our archives. So, Bonnie, if you're listening, we sure appreciate you and hope you're doing well. And thank you for all of your time with us and serving the people of Edwardsville. Item number 1 on the agenda is consent agenda items, approval of minutes paid, statement of bills, and then mayor's appointment of Susan Eubanks to the CPPS board.
Make a motion to accept consent agenda items 1A, B, and C.
Second. We have a motion from Councilman Shriver, a second from Councilman Adcox. Will the clerk please call roll?
Malat.
Yes.
Shriver.
Yes.
Adcox.
Yes.
Bishop.
Yes.
Also, just another quick announcement. We have had some work done on our audio here, and so wanted to remind council to also kind of do their part and make sure we're speaking into the microphones. But thank you so much for staff and taking time to work on that. We sure appreciate it, and hopefully we'll get some great feedback after this meeting.
Hopefully.
Yes.
One part replacement and a few knob adjustments. Is that the prognosis? Yes.
So thank you for that. Requests or comments from the public. If we have anyone that would like to share comments with us this evening, now would be the time to do so. There being none, we'll move on to item number 3. Consider bid award for community center door replacement, installation of low energy door operator. I'll just give a little bit of history and part of this. Commissioner Stites, who's our District 7 commissioner with Unified Government, reached out, and resident of Edwardsville, reached out a while ago to see what our needs were in Edwardsville and what some of the funds he had available to invest in his district could be used for. And so I had mentioned to him the opportunity to put an automatic opener on our community center, as it's a FEMA shelter. That would be beneficial in helping people to get inside of that shelter if they're pushing a stroller, or, with a walker or anything like that, would make it a little bit easier for them. And he was real excited to be able to be a part in contributing to such a great help to our residents. And part of this discussion that we're going to have tonight incorporates his investment in that opener for our community center.
Mayor, thank you. Mayor, Council, I will have Brian Hutchison, the Public Works Supervisor, present on the community center doors. This is a project we had in mind since summer when we noticed some of the major deterioration. It just comes handy that we can have this opener installed as well. Brian.
Mayor and Councilman, good evening. As everybody spoke here on the community center doors, it has been a process going on for the last few months, quite a bit. As the weather's gotten colder, the community doors over there, what I'm going to refer to the back, which is actually probably the front, the glass doors on the north side, have become so deteriorated that you cannot even actually open. You have to pull nose them to get them to come through. So looking at those doors and looking at a few other doors, through 3 bids, we found that three sets of the doors have rusted and swollen so bad that they cannot open, with the door on the northwest corner still being in very good shape, putting continuous hinges on that so it can be adjusted in the future. These doors that we're planning on replacing meet the fire rating, the tornado shelter rating, that's exactly what's on those doors. The doors that are glass now will be all steel to help with the tornado shelter 4, just since it's not used as a fire door anymore. But 3 bids were solicited, Omega door, A total door, and overhead door, with the prices right there. It's our recommendation that you authorize city manager into a contract with Omega door for $20,493. That also includes on Omegas that those 3 doors will come factory painted. All I have to do is send them the Sherwin-Williams paint coat of what the ones are now. Be factory painted with enamel, with a 15-year warranty on those as well. That does also include the potential of the key lock to be added to it, where instead of having the key that we have to hand out all the time, and that will have an electronic hook keyed on there to work with the low energy, where it's just a combination. So if somebody rents the community center, we give them a combination. That combination expires at a certain time, they're out. It allows staff, anybody needs to go there, to have the combination as well for different departments. So that is our recommendation, that you allow the city manager into a contract with Omega Door for $20,493.
I have a couple of questions. I do business with them. Should I recuse myself?
You do direct business, you pay them money? Yeah, it's probably best. Don't you think, Josh? Yeah.
Okay.
And the total all-in is $22,500, and that includes installation from Jim's Lock and Key for the keypad. So just FYI, that wasn't mentioned.
And then the grant money's offset.
It's just offset. It was a revenue, and we're just going to pay all of this out of one fund, which is the community center actual general budget fund.
And then the reason that Omega door is less expensive, that is because it includes the painting of the vehicle.
Correct, 700.
The doors.
Omega door is actually a little bit more than A total, but Omega's includes $750 to have them painted factory, where A total does not have that option.
They do good work.
Omega does, sir?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Do you feel like this is a good price?
Right.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Out of meeting with the 3 of them, Omega was most professional. If you look at the bids, everything to the T, felt real comfortable with his. I know the concern's probably looking at overhead door at $50,000. That guy was just felt like I was wasting his time a little bit, maybe. He just went right through it. But the 2, they're A total and that were both good companies there. I just feel like it's better to get the factory paint on the doors. It's going to last for 15. We all know what the doors looked like before I came. They were in pretty bad shape. It's kind of hard painting steel doors in the sun.
They're original too, aren't they?
They are original, so
They've been there for how long now?
I think it's 70s. It was built in the 70s or something.
No.
It was in
80,
the
right?
late 80s, early 90s.
96. Yeah.
96. And Mayor, I make a motion to allow the city manager to enter into a contract with Omega Door and Hardware for the replacement of the 3 entry doors of the community center for a price of $20,500.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilman Malat, a second from Councilman Shriver. Will the clerk please call roll?
Malat,
Yes.
Shriver,
Yes.
Adcox,
Yes.
Approved. Abstention for Mark Bishop, for the record, please.
Thank you. Item number 4 is consider the purchase request from Public Works Department for 2025 Ford F-550 and associated snowplow accessories.
Mayor, Council, thank you. Brian Hutchison, once again, he did an early assessment when he first came on of a number of pieces of equipment. And this is one that immediately he noticed there were several issues with this particular item. And we deliberately put this in the expenditure budget for 2025. So I'll turn it over to Brian.
Public Works has also gone out and made a replacement schedule for 10-year replacement schedule, and this lines up right with our replacement schedule. One of the original pieces of equipment that was bought back in 2005. the current vehicle that we have, this last snowstorm did leave a shorthanded one. It actually broke down from some repairs that are from some things that we'd been seeing we're concerned about. Didn't last through the storm, left us stranded with just one truck. It's currently still down right now. We are making some minor repairs to it just to get it back up and going in case we need it. The purchase of the 550 Super Duty is basically off of the Johnson County Cooperative purchase or MARC bid through Shawnee Mission Ford. The additional equipment is $45,000 is for a new plow and a new spreader as well. The spreader that was on this truck has the same age, needs a little bit of repairs done to it as well. So going with those is going back to the original place that all of our trucks have bought it to keep it consistent. So if a truck breaks down and a spreader breaks down another truck, I can swap things over and get a truck on the road instead of having one down just for one thing. So we're trying to keep all of our apparatus on these trucks very consistent with all the rest of them so that we can interchange them if need be. So they asked for recommendation to purchase 2025 F550 Super Duty cabin chassis from Shawnee Mission Ford at $57,881, and then additional cost for the spreader and the plows and installation, spreader, plows, and bed installation of $45,000 to American Equipment for a total of $102,881. As Mark said, this was budgeted and thought of through the year prior to that.
So let me clarify the financing piece of it. We think we should stay the course on our lease purchase option because, again, it was started as somewhat of a cash flow protection. So we'll pay around that $34,000 annually for 3 years on this particular piece. We don't get that right now because it'll expire before the truck is actually delivered. So we'll have to go do a whole process again. But we anticipate future factor of money and all of the things were factored in here. It's going to be anywhere from $34,000 to $36,000 a year. Just depends on interest rate and the future factor of money when you lease a vehicle. This will be a lease purchase. So that'll come out of, so it'll be one payment for 3 years out of that municipal equipment fund where we're paying for all of our vehicles from. So you'll see a transfer of the amount that we finance it for annually from the special sales. Instead of taking $108,000 out for it, it'll be around that 35, 36, somewhere in that. That'll be a transfer into the municipal equipment fund. We do that just to keep that those reserves in place until we rebuild that or build that fund to a really sustainable amount. So we need some income into that. So instead of $108,000 spent one time, we will do this over a period of 3 years, like we always do. Police cars, fire trucks are 10 plus years, that sort of thing. So that's what we're doing here.
In the background, it said that part of it would also be funded potentially through the special highway fund.
Yeah, and I don't really know. Doug had to miss tonight. His daughters are receiving awards for being state champions, so they're being honored tonight. So good reason to miss. However, I think the plan, and Brian might be able to speak to that, the plan was that there's money in both of those for these types of operations, especially the snow plow pieces of that. However, we're not going to need to do that. It'll be a one-time transfer, cash flow protection from once a year from the special sales tax where the Public Works has a budget in that particular fund for this year.
Are we keeping the old snowplow? I know we sell it with it. Yeah, 'cause it's 10 years old too.
For me, I think it would be helpful, and we talked about this a little bit before, and council can weigh in if this would be helpful for you, but for us, for me, when we're purchasing something of this magnitude, and it's in the budget, but we don't really see it in the budget, because special sales tax we get like, well, this is what the 2024 was, this is what 2025 will be, but when I talk about like a line item budget, it would be nice to see like this under the Public Works 2025 budget or 2026, and then could have a note like funding through whatever, and that way at the end of the year we could see exactly how much each department has spent, and then it cleans it up to me a little bit when we come back and say, well, it was in the budget, then I can see it. I can see, the planning ahead. And then,
Yeah, we are going through, not to interrupt, sorry.
No, you're fine.
But I've directed all the staff to get their vehicle and equipment. So don't think of just vehicles. There's capital equipment that we have to buy. It's fairly large as well. And so to get that kind of a capital equipment rotation done, and Brian did this kind of verbally because he noticed, hey, this truck was in bad position. It's not good truck. But in moving forward to the 26 budget, we're going to introduce all of that to you at that point. So when we talked about this budget, I tried to go back and find the notes that we knew that this was on our radar. So there's a couple of $100,000 just budgeted for the public works for street improvement stuff and this equipment purchase as well.
yeah, that would be great.
Yes.
And I can send you like a list of things that, like a vehicle or equipment inventory so we can see that. Just kind of the plan on this is when we should expect a new fire truck, ambulance, police car, public works, snow plow, things like that would be helpful for me. I don't know if that.
I was getting ready to say the same thing because you said that you had you were making a list, a replacement list. Is that what you said? And then I was going to say it would be good to have that for all of the departments. Anything that's like a big ticket, like it costs a lot of money, I would like to see.
And that's exactly, we're getting the standardized format. So everybody does it the same way. You see it per department, right? Not just vehicles, but maybe we have other tractors. We have ATVs. We have some of these other things that cost several $1,000s.
Yeah.
So you'll have all of that if you give us a little bit of time towards the budget process so you can see. And by that time, we can also run these reports. If you saw how kind of these different reports in your financial reports are a little different, we have the opportunity to run the detail. It will say this code belongs to the Public Works Department, and they bought these 4 things from the special sales tax, for example, or the special highway or the general fund. So you'll have that little more detail. We're just putting all that together and getting all of our folks on the same page. So we're trying hard.
Fantastic. That'll help. It'll just be less sticker shock. I think
Yes.
if we know.
I do have a couple questions. I always have to ask, so no place in Wyandotte County can sell these trucks, or I have to ask?
To the mark bid in the Johnson County, it goes out to all the
Right.
in there. So the truck, no. If we go off the Johnson County cooperative bid, no.
Let me correct you because it went from the Mid-American Municipal Cooperative Purchasing Cooperative, which was a part of the MARC, to this Kansas City Regional Purchasing Cooperative, which is still the MARC bid. We're members of MARC, and yes, you can. I think the answer is we could probably find a truck here in Wyandotte County and buy it from somebody there, but it's going to be much more expensive, right? That's usually the same as the police cars, that sort of thing.
I just want to ask you.
And what it does for us is we don't have to go out and spec the vehicles. They're already done for us. All the bid work is already done. We don't have to write and get 10 people to give us bids. All of that work's been done because we're a member of the Mid-America Regional Council. That's historic. So.
Do the Wyandotte County dealerships have the ability to be part of that co-op if they want to put bids in for those vehicles?
Yeah, if they want to be a state contract or the Mid-America Regional contract in that cooperative, they have every opportunity to do so. And we did have an experience where Victory Motors, not to call them out, but they did make an effort to do that, but sometimes it's not very lucrative, right? So there's certain ones that have been in, like the Ford business, for example. There's been Shawnee Mission and Olathe. Those are our fleet people. That's because they're very dominant in that. And so some of that, the dealership may control some of that, or the Ford company and each dealership. I can't really speak much to that, but we did have Victory and they did bid, but they back in the day, but they soon got out of that business as far as I can.
Right. You have plenty of room to house all of this equipment?
We will be getting rid of the old truck, selling it on Purple Wave. So it's not going to take up any more room than. Yes, we do have plenty of room for what we have now.
And that's, if I understand your question, is that about adding capacity? Because we'll now have opportunity to have 3 vehicles out with us.
Right.
Yeah.
It is adding capacity to the vehicles out because it'll give us if I take the spreader off of the truck that we're getting rid of and put it on the other 1-ton truck, it'll give us the capacity for 3 trucks to be fully snow, 100%. Does that make sense? Right now, I'm
It
only
does make sense, but where is everything parked when it's not used?
one of them is down at the park at sometimes, and then the other 2 are up at the shop on Airfield Drive.
And does that have inside anywhere down there? I'm
Two,
just,
two are inside and one is outside. Current.
note on that.
Yes. Hopefully a brand new one's inside, huh?
That doesn't require a bump in the driver's license, does it? I mean, we don't fall under the
No.
DOT and that sort of thing, do we? I don't think we did, yeah.
Still under 26,000.
Yeah. Well, I'll make the motion to have the Public Works Department buy a 2025 Ford 550 and the snowplow accessories to come along with it.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilman Bishop, a second from Councilman Adcox. Will the clerk please call roll?
Lot,
Yes.
Freiberg,
Yes.
Adcox,
Yes.
Bishop.
Yes.
Thank you. Item number 5, consider purchase request from the fire department for grant reimbursed firefighting personnel protection equipment, which is turnout gear.
Mayor, thank you. Mayor, Council, I'll invite Fire Chief Tim Whittam to make the presentation. I think we have a good opportunity here to have somebody else pay for stuff that we really, really need. Chief.
Mayor, council, everybody likes free items. I wish I could say it was 100% free at the top, but we do have to sit there and pay some money to be reimbursed. It's a pass-through grant. In front of you tonight is for us to go out and purchase 10 sets of firefighter protective gear, which is the coats, the trousers, the gloves, and the hoods. Through a FEMA, which is Federal Emergency Management Agency's grant approved, that was passed down through the Kansas State Firefighters Association. We're looking to replace 10 sets of turnout gear currently that are used by full-time, part-time, and volunteer personnel within our organization. Normally we replace 3 sets per year that is budgeted. We're still going to continue to push forward with 3 sets. We'll replace 13 sets total, 3 out of the general fund, which are already our operating budget. These 10 are a grant opportunity that hit us here about 2 months ago when we put in for it and were awarded. As I said, this is a pass-through grant. We will sit there and purchase the 10 sets through state contract approved vendor, First Due Emergency Response Solutions, which is a fire desk representative piggybacked off of an existing contract, the Kansas City, Kansas contract. That gives us a price of about $3,700 per outfit per firefighter. We will sit there and make the purchases with approval through First Due, receive the items, write the check out to the vendor, submit the paperwork back to the Kansas State Firefighters Association, which will reimburse the funds back to the city. We're asking for no more than $37,250 to be approved from the Special Sales Tax Fund to allocate for the purchases that will be reimbursed back within about 4 to 8 weeks after we sit there and process the payment on our end. It's the paperwork off the state. So at this time, I'll answer any questions that anybody has. It's a fairly simple process. We did it with a set last year we had an opportunity for. It's seamless. We order it, we get it, we write a check for it, we submit the paperwork back, they reimburse us for it. It was just an unfunded allocation we had the first year, but we do have the funds in the special sales tax, and no need turning away free items when we can sit there and get it strike when our deal's hot.
So it'll come out of special sales tax, and then when the grant funds come in,
It goes
that'll
right
be
back into special sales tax
at 100%.
at 100%.
Whatever that turns out to be, 32.7, if close to there.
So why just 10? Why not all?
Because that's what we're capped at.
And why does this say up to 10?
Because we have 8 identified immediately right now, and we're looking for 2 more sets to capitalize on the entire set process. If we can't fill them all, we have a window by the end of the summer to pick up the 2 more additional sets. It's easier to come in and ask for all 10 up front, make the entire process, and then move through.
So there's a possibility it may not be 10 this
It
time.
may not be 10,
Gotcha.
but we are capped at 10, and we're going to try to strike everything we have. Although we did sit there and look at the First Due Emergency Response Solutions as a state-approved contract vendor, we did compare other items out there, and even the state vendor come in below price quotes of what our other competing vendors were.
Tim, sorry, Chief, is that the First Due?
That's who we're recommending.
That's the
Yes,
best. Okay.
that's the best.
Okay.
That is
That's
the best,
and
lowest price. There are our qualifications, piggybacking off the existing contract established with Kansas City, Kansas Fire Department.
Sir, you mentioned that you routinely buy these every year. Is that correct?
We allocate for 3 sets to
Where
replace
do you
every
allocate those out? General fund? or
out
is
of
it
general
special?
fund.
Okay. Do you have some of those in the general fund this
We
particular
have
year?
3 more sets still in the general fund.
So do you need some 13, 14 of them or no?
We need 3 to replace out for gear that will expire within the next 18 months because there's a 10-year limit on the gear.
Okay.
And then the grant parameters here were for new personnel. So we have 4 new hires we brought on in the last 8 months within the department, and part-time and volunteer personnel that are eligible for the grant. So we're going to purchase up to 10 sets of that side for the grant, and then the 3 sets will be separate, be the same contract price, but it'll be separate out of the general fund.
Okay, so the clarification here is this is for new
Part-time,
onboarding, part-time
hires.
and or full-time
Yep.
employees,
Yes, sir.
so they'll have new turnout gear. And then you have 3 sets that you're going to buy because you have some expiring out of the general fund.
Out of the general
Budgeted
fund
in
that's already
fire.
budgeted.
Well, I'd make the motion that we buy the new turnout gear through the grant reimbursing firefighter personal protection equipment turnout gear.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilman Bishop, a second from Councilman Shriver. Will the clerk please call roll?
Bullock,
Yes.
Shriver,
Yes.
Adcock,
Yes.
Bishop, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for keeping an eye out for those grant opportunities. Anytime we're able to keep those off of our out of our general fund and off of the backs of our taxpayers is very much appreciated. So thank you guys for doing the extra work to find that. Item 6, consider resolution 2025-02, a resolution authorizing the issuance and delivery of $16 million principal amount of general obligation temporary notes series 2025 of the city of Edwardsville, Kansas, to temporarily finance the cost of certain internal improvements of the city.
Mayor, thank you. Mayor, Council, what we have before you looks awful complicated, and that's why I brought in the A-team with me here today. This is exciting news. We're moving well forward, and I'm going to invite first Clayton Kelly, our financial advisors of Piper Sadler. I almost said Jaffrey. Sorry.
Happens all the time. don't worry.
Yes. So Clayton Kelly for you folks. And you do have that plan of finance summary. That's should be this is a new thing because we had a sale this morning of these bonds. Okay. These notes were sold. And you also have, before we get started, the pages 23 through 25-ish of the resolution has the red line. Those were changes made because of the note sale today. Okay, and you have those as well. Clayton?
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Mayor and city council members, thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. So I just want to backtrack a little bit, just to talk about where we're at and what took place this morning, what this resolution essentially authorizes the city to do, as well as some future important dates. So as a reminder, we went forward as we were discussing the financial plan to move forward with a temporary note issuance to be able to lock in interest rates temporarily and then come back 2 to 3 years later with a permanent financing. So this morning's sale, we took bids from potential investors for the temporary note issuance of $16 million. And the winning bidder was from Robert Baird. And when we put together the financial plan that we shared with the city, really over the last about 12 months at this point, we've been fairly conservative and cautious in our interest rates that we were assuming. Just not sure where interest rate movement might be. Those assumptions assumed 5% interest rate for this project. So keep that in mind. The winning bidder from Robert Baird came in at a 3.58% rate. So I think when I was here a couple of months ago, we were going to be really happy with anything, in that lower 4, upper 3% range. So great result for the city. The city did receive 2 bids. The other was from Oppenheimer. They came in at a 5.4%. So pretty big difference between both bids. Baird was the winning bidder on the last temporary note issuance by the city. And that was, I believe, in the fall of 2023, just to put in perspective where interest rates have changed. Back then, that rate was almost 5%. So what does that mean in terms of how does that if we update the financial plan? That actually reduces the interest cost throughout the term of the temporary note by about $800,000 from where we were initially projecting the temporary note issuance cost to come in at. So that's how big of a change it makes with going from a 5% interest rate assumption down to a 3.58%. So essentially, the action item tonight allows us to lock in that rate, and then Tyler will come up here and talk a little bit about the process and help answer any questions in regards to the action item. So I won't get into that, but really, next steps after this point is closing, which is scheduled to take place on March 20th. The city has already received this morning $320,000 from Baird. As part of a winning bid, they have to submit a good faith wire to the issuer. So that's been received by the city. And just as a reminder, when the rest of the funds are deposited with the city on March 20th, you'll immediately be able to start earning investment earnings on those funds as well. So it just really good result. It gives the city, as we talked about, a lot of flexibility before you actually go in and you lock in final interest rates through a permanent bond financing. Estimated timeline for that, I believe, is probably a couple of years before we go and lock in permanent financing, but you have until the end of 2028 to be able to do so based on the current temporary note financing schedule. So great result for the city. Really happy for you guys, and I'd be happy to take any questions in regards to those bid results.
The money they received today, can we start earning interest on that too, or do we have to wait for the rest of the money?
Oh, that's a great question. You would have to wait until closing to be able to start investing those funds and accumulate interest earnings on that. So great question. But yeah, have to wait till that March 20th date.
That's only about.
So we have until 2028 to lock in our permanent and move away from the temporary notes. This is a pretty good interest rate as it is now. If we see an interest rate close to this for permanent, is there any length of time that we have to keep this locked or with the temporary note before we can convert to permanent?
Great question. So what we call that is an optional redemption date. So when we price the temporary note issuance, we put in an optional redemption date of June 1 of next year, of 2026. So as long as we're within 90 days of that June 1 date, you can convert it into a permanent long-term financing. So to answer your question, any date after essentially around March 1st of 2026.
And do you keep an eye on those interest rates for us?
We do, yep.
What are the permanent rates right now?
That's a good question. So 20-year rate right now, and what we're seeing in the permanent in the long-term market, if you're probably looking at right around 3.75 to 4% of permanent rates.
Your note mentioned, pardon me, so, your note mentioned about the Series 2023 TEM notes and maybe a combination of these two things.
Yeah, so to refresh, part of the temporary note, the benefit of it is the flexibility that, as a reminder, there's cost of issuance every time you go in and you secure permanent financing. So being able to combine several outstanding TIP notes or a couple of outstanding TIP notes into one permanent financing, as well as any potential future projects that you may be considering with a permanent financing, rather than locking in a permanent financing again. There's a lot of cost synergies that are part of that strategy. In addition to that, probably the biggest one is going to be when you go to lock in the permanent financing, you'll have your final project cost complete. So you'll know exactly what the project costs. So if the project comes in after investment earnings less than that $16 million, we could actually downsize when we go to permanently finance. So it just, rather than locking something in now at a bond amount that you may not necessarily need to finance after all the investment earnings you would accumulate, it just allows you to lower that overall cost over time.
We would essentially give some of the money back, right?
Correct.
Make it simple.
Yeah. Is there a penalty for early payoff? For this,
So for the temporary note?
No, not temporary, but through the whole 20 years.
Yeah, so for the 20-year financing, those typically come with a early prepayment option similar to the temporary note. Usually that occurs anywhere from 5 to 7 years after the issuance date. So anytime typically after about 5 or 7 years after you issue that, you can prepay at no penalty.
But after the 7 years, there's a penalty.
No, so there's no ability. Essentially, your penalty, if you try to pay before the 7 years or 5 years, whatever it is you have to pay the principal plus that interest.
Okay.
But if you pay after that time, between let's just say year 7 and year 20, you're only paying the principal. So there's no penalty of having to pay interest by paying it off early.
After the 7 years, right?
Yep.
Good.
Thank you. Did you have a question?
I do. This might not even mean anything, but I'm still concerned with 32 Highway going to be closed like 27, 28 or whatever. And when we're depending on sales tax to supplement the funding of this project, what kind of an effect can we see down the road on that as far as having an income to be able to pay for this project? Are we going to get in some financial trouble then when the cash registers go kind of still?
We don't have that kind of that schedule, if you will. But if we were to see that now, you would see that no matter what, we're going to pay. We need to generate about $900,000 a year from these sources. And we mentioned beyond the sales tax, you have these other things. You have the debt service, right? You have the ad valorem, just right taxes that you'll have to pay this for. So you could see, a rise in one of those revenue sources which accommodate any of those fluctuations in the sales tax specifically. Now, but we're healthy. If you look at the schedule and the fund balance, meaning the cash on hand at the end of the day every year from the schedule, you'll see that we grow healthy very quickly. And when we get good rates and these other things and manage our money well, that we're going to be in a really good position. So you can withstand, it was built this way, so that we could withstand the ebb and flows of sales tax, countywide, citywide, whatever it might be.
Yeah, so and to add to that, I mean, the financial plan that we put together at the beginning was very cautious, not just with interest rate assumptions, but assuming no growth in that sales tax moving forward. So every year you grow or you move forward, it's just additional funds that could be deposited into the fund balance, as well as that mill levy. So we assumed a stable mill levy moving forward. With all of those factors combined, your fund balance for your specific debt service payments looks extremely healthy moving forward.
It's very healthy.
Oh, well, thanks for that.
Yeah.
The 3.58 is pretty cool. I like that.
Thank you.
For that.
Thank you.
Good job. Thank you. Now I'll introduce Tyler Ellsworth, Kutak Rock. I like it, Kutak Rock. It sounds a little better, but Kutak Rock. Bond Counsel, sir, thanks for coming.
Happy to be here. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I don't have a lot to add to the information that Clayton provided you. The formal action this evening, and before I get to that, I want to introduce my colleague, Emma Kate Dillon, who's here and has assisted on the note sale and the note documents for this deal. So the formal action before you this evening is approval of the note resolution. And I think you have a red line in your packet. There was really not much that changed except for some values on Exhibit B to that resolution based on the final result of the sale this morning. But approving that resolution this evening allows us as your bond counsel, but also staff on your behalf, to formally accept the bid from Robert W. Baird at that 3.58%. It also authorizes us to prepare and sign and deliver all the closing docs that go along with this. So happy to answer any specifics, but that's at a high level what the resolution does.
So if there are no questions, then we would make a motion to authorize resolution 2025-02 or approve resolution 2025-02 authorizing the issuance and delivery of $16 million principal amount of general obligations temporary notes series 2025 of the city of Edwardsville, Kansas to temporarily finance the cost of certain internal improvements to the city.
We're adopting resolutions. We'll adopt it.
Make a motion as stated by the mayor.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilman Shriver, a second from Councilman Adcox. Will the clerk please call roll?
Vaughn,
Yes.
Shriver,
Yes.
Adcox,
Yes.
Bishop,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes.
Thank you for your hard work.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you. Good job. Appreciate it. Excellent. They made that easy.
Good deal.
Okay.
This part is.
Yeah. Great
Yeah.
news on that interest rate. That's
Yes,
fantastic.
I was, everybody was glad. I think we were all doing somewhat of a happy dance, emailing back and forth.
Well, make that money go a long way.
Yes.
Item 7, consider a motion to recess into executive session pursuant to KSA 754319B2 for consultation with legal counsel, which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship regarding potential litigation. This would include our litigation counsel, city attorney, and city manager, as well as the governing body. How long do we think we would?
How long do you think? 30? Let's start with 30.
So to return at 7:10. And we'll just need a motion in a second.
Make a motion to recess into executive session, including the city manager, attorney, and council, returning at 7:10.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilman Shriver, a second from Councilman Adcox. Will the clerk please call roll?
Vaughn,
Yes.
Shriver,
Yes.
Adcox,
Yes.
Bishop,
Yes.
This conference will now be recorded.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilman Malat, a second from Councilman Shriver. Will the clerk please call roll?
Vaughn, Shriver,
Yes.
Adcox,
Yes.
Bishop, yes, Mullen,
Yes.
We have a motion from Councilman Malat, a second from Councilman Bishop. Will the clerk please call roll?
Mullen, or I'm sorry, Mullen. Yes. Shriver,
Yes.
Adcox,
Yes.
Bishop,
Yes.
Mullen.
Yes.
Nice to.
You're doing fine. You got all the names in there. Oh, so
This conference will now be recorded. This conference will now be recorded. This conference will now be recorded. This conference will now be recorded.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilman Malat, a second from Councilman Shriver. Will the clerk please call roll?
Lot.
Yes.
Shriver. Yes. Adcock.
Yes.
Bullock.
Yes.
Bishop.
Yes.
Okay. City manager report.
Make it fast. Did I hear that?
Yeah,
Mumbling up there. Fast I will be. Cost share program. You'll recall that 104th Street, the first extension of 104th Street sidewalk, we were awarded a cost share. But we were diligent in moving that project very fast, and we were too fast for the program because it's a construction only reimbursement. And we were well into our construction. They have graciously just awarded us that same money for phase 2. And that somewhat says, when Mark signs that we're going to build phase 2. There is money. I have already charged the city engineer to begin a high level, what's it going to cost? What's the pre-construction engineering cost? Then right away acquisitions and some of the other, and then what's the construction cost? And remember, we decided the Mid-America Regional Council TAP, and they transportation, area transportation funds that they awarded us, that is, they made an error. And they notified me after I said, hey, something isn't right about this. Because remember, it was some of these really big numbers. We could do it a lot cheaper than even the matching funds. So very quickly, they redid that for us and said, yes, there was an error. However, the money is still more because they gave us little in federal funding, making the city take on more of that portion. It's just simply not worth it. When the same amount of money, we don't have to go through all the layers and all the reporting and all of the, though we'll have it inspected, KDOT projects requires 24/7. if you're working 24/7, to have inspectors on site doing all this stuff. So it really costs. So we can, anywhere from that 300 to 400,000, just depending on how the linear feet and all the stuff and the right of way acquisition, how that all comes down. We have that money in two funds, ARPA, right? City ARPA, and then ARPA, which is Wyandotte County ARPA. Wyandotte County wanted two projects, and it's only 135,000 out of the 1.3 million. So we combine those two, we get reimbursed 125. We can build the extension from Metropolitan. It'll be on the east side, cemetery side, go right up that side, and all the way to Edge Hill Road. Okay, so there's two Edge Hills right in there, but it'll be the road, the farthest one. So that's a good extension. I think close to the same linear feet that we already did for this in front of the school and Williams Farm area. So that way, this is ARPA funds. So no matter what we're up against the time frame, ARPA has to be spent. Not a single dime left December of 2026. So that's why when Mark awarded us those funds, they were going to not let till the 26th season. It just wouldn't work for us anyway. So we have the funds on hand. They've been marked for 104th Street as part of that project. We'll combine two sources and a reimbursement source, and then we'll get that project done. So the first step you'll see from me is I'm going to sign the cost share stuff, unless you tell me no right now. And number two, I've already engaged the engineers to get us an idea of exactly how much that's going to cost. We have a very high level, so we can make application to Mark. But it's very high level, very expensive because of just the way that process is. So that's what I'm going to be doing next until you tell me no. Now, Mr. Malat is probably thinking about 4th Street, and I already mentioned we're going to team up with KDOT on the 4th Street when that comes in 2 years, right? They have the borrowing power, the contractor power, leverage, all of that. So when that 4th Street project happens at K32, we have opportunity to run the sidewalk towards that store that we always mention and run a little bit of that sidewalk to High Street from 4th Street, because those ramps and stuff, we have an opportunity to do that. And it'll be a lot less cost to the city than us just going and doing it. So I think that's the wait and see one. And they are doing the bidding for us. They're getting all the estimates together and doing all this, and they're going to tell us before July exactly how much the 4th Street sidewalk, what we call the 4th Street sidewalk west extension, and the north side will cost us. KDOT is building the sidewalk that's on the east side, Robert's property, right? That goes north to High Street. They're going to build it almost halfway, just because of the way the design has to, and the run for the ramp that's not there, I don't think, right? Because there's no sidewalks, but a crosswalk goes to it, goes to nowhere. So we will just have linear feet and some right-of-way acquisition to get to High Street. Now, what we got to manage on High Street, if you drive by there, you maybe not notice these things, but there's a concrete drainage there. You know, I drove by 1,000 million times, and then, oh yeah, there it is. They're right. So they have to work around that a little bit. That'd be a little extra cost, but not terrible. So that's what we're doing on 4th Street sidewalk. I think we can get these things done in the next 24 months. I think we can do 104th Street extension, pedestrian mobility priorities. We can do that probably summer. We just need to know what the cost is. And we ought to move sooner than later because we have to spend the money, right? And this has already been earmarked for these pedestrian mobility projects.
And just an update on that, I gave a little bit of history with KDOT. I've been working on actually a sidewalk project along K32 for a couple years now. And my KDOT contact, I forwarded some information to Mark Mathies, is really excited about getting a plan together for just an area improvement and how we might be able to offset some of our costs there. So I'll keep you in the loop on that, but I was really excited that she was ready to jump in on that.
Sounds like there's plenty of program. And the cost share is not, we're not out just because we've had one award. We could go and apply for a new one as well. So that's all about the construction reimbursement. And you'd think we would have some leverage because we're going to be partner direct with KDOT on their project. So I think that's some positive things for sure. So
very good.
Absolutely. That's what I have. Thank you.
Councilman Mullen.
No comment.
Okay. Councilman Bishop.
Still dropping off a busload of people up there.
Yeah.
McDonald's. So.
Now, the report I received is that they're workers, they're green card workers, and they're being brought here for jobs that they allegedly already have. Beyond that, I have no idea. I can't verify that statement.
That's all I got.
Councilman Millat.
Thank you for the sidewalk stuff. I was good to hear that.
Yes,
We
we can
need
get
this sooner than later. It needs to be now. I was gonna ask you on, you identified the street between the bank and the gas station as Third Street. Is that Third Street? Or
Yeah, technically
that-
it is.
is that our street? Or
It is, yeah. It's weird.
Okay, what do you do when you go south on that, have to go through the bank to get back?
Well, you don't.
You're going
I've-
through private property.
I actually, this is a great question, if you don't mind, Mayor. I briefed the mayor on this because she had the very questions of, what's happening in that area and in that particular 4th Street and K32 project. So very simply,
Bank Midwest will probably start saying something
I've already talked to them. I talked to them very immediately because we have opportunities. If you know Pacific Street went away, it wasn't really ours anyway. It's a little bit of railroad. It's kind of was a weird. But the way that property is, you have the fence, and now you have that median. So there cannot be a left turn as soon as you go over the railroad tracks, a left turn onto any street. So when they close down K32 and 4th Street, there's no way to go west without going all the way up, and around. I mean, there's just no simple way because there's no west route after you go north of K32. If K32 is not the option, right, then you have to go clear I-70 or something. And so, but we understand that there's a high probability they will close the east portion of the driveway to the post office from 4th Street. So you're turning west, right? The one way you can go into the post office there is that they would close that. They've wanted to do that for several years. They've never liked that they gave us somewhat of a little exemption when they widened the highway originally. Because if you know, people turning in there and they stop for backing cars, they back up all to the highway, which is not by their design. So they will close that, and that means 3rd Street, as Mr. Malott pointed out, which is a street of ours, it's kind of convoluted up in there, will be the primary street for the access for the post office if it stays there. Okay, so now the question becomes, how do we get from 4th Street to 3rd Street? If you can't go east and then get back there, you've got to figure out a way to do that. And so I planned what we've deemed Midwest Drive, which will be right now the plan in general discussions is an east-west wide enough street on the bank property. Okay, you know where the ATM sets. It sets that there would be some reconfiguration of all of that. Take some of our doing, some of their doing, and that we could reconfigure that so there would be an east-west, even if it's temporary. Okay, even if it's temporary, that we would have the 4th Street going east across their lot. Now, if you look at the property lines for Bank Midwest, it goes nearly clear to the post office building. There's a lot of handshake in that property arrangement as things go, but they own all that. We can't go really to the south because we have a median in the way. You have the railroad tracks, you have that fence of the railroad. It's really tight through there for traffic, and we'd have to figure out some way to access their drive and then dip down and go around. We're doing some engineering. They welcomed us. They will help us figure this thing out. They're more than ready and willing. Now, of course, that may be Bank Midwest. Yep, their people are all on board and said, let's start with give me some ideas. So I have to have some high-level engineering. We have people on staff to do that. PEC is already going to say, okay, you need this much feet. We need this to make where the ATM, that just we all can frame up where that is, to have what is almost like a two-way alley, if you will, right? That kind of thing. And again, there's by planning design, there's plenty of parking that's not on that south side of the building. The rest of that parking lot is plenty of parking for that particular building and its use. So we could take some of that parking lot as well. So those are all options, just ideas up there. But we have to find a way, no matter what, to go east-west without using private property, right? It's something we'll have to acquire and or get a deed to, right? And then figure out what in kind, if we have to move the ATM, is that they're not going to want that expense, and they like it visible where it's at. So how do we work around that? So there's lots of questions, but we're answering them soon. Remember, this is 2027, and so we're trying to do those as quick as possible to get these things moving right away. So there is still the option that they could leave portions of K32 open. However, if you would like a 17-month project, that's how you do that, rather than just 9 months, close it and get it done. So we need emergency vehicle access to go without going through somebody's private property. We want to fix that up, reinforce the driveway, that sort of thing. So there's lots of just a checklist that we're doing. So not to drag this out too much, but we are working on it. We're going to try to find a solution. And Bank Midwest is well on board in the sense they're talking to us, they're participating, and we'll have a follow-up as soon as I have some idea of some engineering of, hey, this is how wide it's to be, this is where it's put on the property, this is the best solution you can come up with, and then we can start working around that. That's where we're at. You bet.
Anything on Pavasitch's erosion issues up there yet?
Well, there is an erosion project in the city's right-of-way happening. We've let that, of course, we bid it, we awarded the bid. We've talked to the company, which is Westland Construction Company. Baser, I think, is where they're headquartered out of. They've been on the property. We've walked it. The biggest concern there was access to the property without property damage. We got big trucks with rock, right? And it's muddy. And I mean, we went from -6 to 60. I mean, my goodness, so it's a sloppy mess. They have iron plates, steel plates that they'll be using. They're going to access it from using those plates, access it from all the right-of-way that the city owns, of course, and any of that damage they have to replace and put back. There's a couple of things that will go more on the private property, but again, any of those where they can put the plates down, they'll use those to drive across, and they'll fix anything that they have to do. So we're giving them a 10-day notice to proceed. That's coming up. We have the contract for them and the 10-day notice to proceed. It'll be done in March.
Thank you for that. One more thing. You mentioned Bonnie Sandberg. She's a pretty good friend of mine. I grew up with her, and she definitely deserves the recognition for what she did. You know, her mom and dad were wonderful people. So.
I think Mrs. Shriver and I can attest that she was the one always about the money. She was like, "Where's the money? Where's this at? Give me that report." So she was honest, which I like that. She was really getting honest about making sure we had the money there.
She's just a wonderful person.
Yeah, she was good to have on that board.
So anyway, she'd be very well respected. So, thank you for
Thank you.
everything. I like the loan, the interest on the loan. I think our city's staff deserves a lot of credit for the efforts that they do. The chiefs,
Appreciate
and,
that.
everybody. I think they're really fiscally responsible, and they're really good for the city of Edwards. I'd like for you to tell them that in
I
your
will do
meeting
so.
tomorrow. Tell them
See you tomorrow.
they're definitely appreciated.
We're focused on financial health, not financial wealth. That'll come later.
Thank you. Councilman Shriver.
I would too like to mention big thanks to Bonnie Sandberg. I've worked with her for several years, and just such a pleasant lady and so much knowledge of the city, the cemetery. She'll be a big loss. She'll be missed a lot, but I know she has served for many. I don't even know how many years.
We couldn't find the record.
Right.
We could get to 2015, but we couldn't go past that. It's just not in the record. It's probably a hard copy somewhere, but we just couldn't find it.
So yes, that
Be nice to know.
award is well deserving of Bonnie. So, and I'd like to thank Commissioner Stites for his award of the $3,500 from
Yeah.
the UG Discretionary Grant Fund. That's exciting. Who's going to ask him if there's more money?
Yeah.
I mean,
Soon.
right. No, if you could thank him.
Yeah,
for all of it.
I
That-
will. And we talked about the Hollywood Casino grant and that sort of thing. So that's on our radar.
Well, I know he fights for us.
Yep.
I know he's our voice. So that's exciting. I've sat here for 12 years and I don't know of any. I know it's a grant fund, but it's extremely nice to have that. We didn't ask for it.
It was a little
nobody
hard to
asked for it.
swallow, not to interrupt, but the fact that they took our sci-fi, but they have discretionary funds. I'm like, well, wait a minute.
I
We
wasn't
use
going to ask,
discretion.
but
We
that's
take
right.
200,000 instead, right? So,
Where is Omega Door and Overhead located?
I'm sorry now.
Where is Omega Door and Overhead located?
I don't know. I'm sorry. Mark, do you know?
They used to be over on Truman Road by Fire Station 71, Missouri.
In Missouri.
Just curious.
I can put that out.
I'm
You guys-
forever and a day wanting our city to do business with all Wyandotte County and
Yeah.
businesses, but I just curious. So,
our effort is to call as many people as we can. And
Right.
some people, like that, you saw that overhead door, they didn't want to do the job.
I know when you put bids out, you can't control who
No.
they come from, and you can't really control. But I'm just curious. So,
Yes, ma'am.
but
I'll find out. I don't know.
I'm glad they come highly recommended from
Down here.
Bishop. Yes,
Thank you.
yes, from our construction fan. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Good, thank you.
Councilman Adcock?
Can you remind me of what's going on with that abandoned house? They're off 110th. What's
The yellow one, the Vine, or 110th and Vine. It was foreclosed on, I believe. That's one of the properties that was bank repossessed or something. So the problem we were having with it was it was an ownership transition. So when you look at the property records, and so I do believe at one point Tom reached out and they did some things before the winter came around to kind of somewhat clean it up, but they're probably not going to do much more. We'll probably have to stay on them. We should go back to maybe requiring them to demo it. If they're not paying property taxes, we should do that because there is property there and it's taxed. And if they're up to date and paying, but I think our last query is that was not up to date, more likely because the bank was then transitioning to ownership. So
I would really like to see it demolished
go down.
because you can see that it's abandoned, and
Yes. It
would
has
hate to-
attracted
Yeah.
misdemeanors up there. So
I just well, the furry residents are the least of my worries
yeah.
for that. So
Yeah, we can get back on that. We'll put that on our code enforcement priority list. We have all the paperwork. We'll just restart it.
That's it. All right, I've got a few things, but I will rattle them off quickly. Try to keep it short. Once again, thank you for Bonnie Lou Sandberg and her amazing time service to our city. Thank you to Commissioner Stites. That'll, I'm sure, come up and we'll keep him in the loop as those get installed. Edwardsville Mobile Pantry is coming up Saturday, March 8th, and the registration, it is pre-registration required, so we know how many people to plan for, and that deadline is Wednesday, March 5th. So if anyone has people here close by that are in need, that's a great opportunity for them to receive groceries. Wanted to announce something I'm pretty excited about is a group that Debbie Shaw has agreed to spearhead, and that'll be something anyone can participate in, but it'll be the Edwardsville Historical Society. What they'll do is come together once a month to document history of Edwardsville and have it written down. They can bring stories, they can bring pictures, commemorative things, but these are things that we might be able to showcase in our new City Hall Public Library area to bring Edwardsville history here. We've already lost a lot of our history, I believe, in the last 10 years or so with so many people that have gone on before us. And so just wanted to take an opportunity to get that history in writing and in photos and collect what we can to have that. And so anyone can be a part of it. Their first meeting is going to be Wednesday, March 26th, 10 a.m. here on site, probably the training room.
Yep.
And so we'll get some information out for everyone to be included that would like to be, but just real excited to get that thing started. Thank you to Susan Eubanks, who is volunteering to be part of our CPBS board moving forward. It's not easy to get volunteers, so appreciate anyone dedicating their time that way. And then I can send an email about this, but maybe we can talk about just looking at special sales tax moving forward in how that's spent. You know, do we want to say this much? That's going to change because of was it this year that we could start bringing police, or is it next year?
The year after, I think this year, I think
Okay.
they can, but they're not going to. Yeah.
But we can spend that on it in a few different ways, including parks. And so just kind of seeing, maybe we could see where it's been spent and what we want that vision to be moving forward. Oh, thank you again for notes on the screen. I think that's very helpful for people to be able to follow along. Have a good night. Oh wait, sorry, I didn't
Forgot to
yet.
mention this.
Uh-oh.
There's a PBS special on right now
Yeah.
called The Potato King, and it's all about Junius Groves. It's really good. They go pretty in depth on the history of that man. So,
Very
that's
good.
all. Sorry.
More Edwardsville history.
Yeah.
Have a good night. Thank you.